she is necessarily innocent in this. I mean, it takes two. Mm-hmm. And so I think in a lot of ways, he's made himself even more.
Today, we are diving deeper than ever before, into a financial drama that has been quietly simmering behind the polished cameras of sister wives. A story that, until now, has remained largely hidden from the public. Aja story about Coyote Pass, about trust betrayed, and about the staggering financial manipulations that have redefined our understanding of the Brown family. This is the kind of story that changes everything you thought you knew. And tonight, we expose it all, piece by piece. We begin, as every dramatic story should, with a moment of triumph. Picture Janelle Brown, radiant with pride, standing beside her newest Homa fifth-wheel trailer nestled on the very land she helped secure for the family. To the untrained eye, it was a simple celebration, a milestone marking her independence and her persistence. But behind her bright smile, behind the facade of triumph, a more sinister tale was unfolding, a tale crafted not in generosity but in manipulation. A story that, in many ways, redefined the power dynamics between the sister wives. Between Janelle and Robyn, and even between Janelle and Cody himself. We obtained exclusive documentation, bank statements, legal filings, and insider accounts that reveal a pattern of financial deception so meticulous, so carefully orchestrated, it reads like a thriller. Central to this story is a text message sent by Robyn Brown to a confidant during that pivotal week. "I had to loan Janelle money for that trailer. She had nothing." On the surface, it sounds like a simple act of generosity, a sister wife lending a hand. But the reality, revealed by the numbers, the transactions, and the legal evidence, tells an entirely different story. This was a masterclass in financial gaslighting, an act that leveraged Janelle's own money against her, turning her savings into a tool of control and manipulation. To truly understand the depth of this betrayal, we must rewind. We must go back to the foundation of the Brown family's finances. Back to the system that governed the flow of money long before the fifth wheel or even Coyote Pass became a concern. At the center of this financial universe was what insiders call the Brown family production at Caltor BFPA, far from a trivial account. The BFPA was the heart of the family's income, a single repository for their TLC salaries and the primary engine that fueled the Brown family enterprise. For decades, Janelle Brown had been a financial powerhouse, from her early years in Wyoming to her real estate career in Nevada. She had cultivated a pragmatic, disciplined approach to money. When the family relocated to Las Vegas, she didn't rely solely on the TLC income. She earned commissions, built a portfolio, and contributed relentlessly to the BFPA. Our insider sources, reviewing financial documents spanning over 5 years, estimate that Janelle deposited between 70% to 80% of her personal earnings directly into the BFPA, level of contribution that dwarfed the contributions of many within the family, including those who claimed equal footing in the family's financial decisions. Contrast this with Robyn Brown's financial record during the same period. While Janelle built her portfolio and consistently fueled the BFPA, Robyn's contributions, according to the documents and insider reports, were sporadic and minimal. Her business venture, My Sister Wife's Closet, consumed resources without generating a comparable return. Meanwhile, BFPA funds were being funneled to support Robyn and Cody's extravagant lifestyle, luxurious homes in Vegas and Flagstaff, high-end vehicles, and operational costs for her side ventures. The imbalance was stark. One wife worked relentlessly, building the family's foundation with her income, while another consumed and benefited disproportionately. Janelle's financial situation, paradoxically, was both robust and constrained. She was asset-rich, having invested her earnings into the communal account. Yet, liquidity for her money, while substantial, was inaccessible for her immediate needs. This contradiction would become critical during the Coyote Pass saga, as she found herself in a desperate situation, seeking to purchase a fifth wheel for herself on land she had a rightful claim to. Here's where the plot thickens. In the public eye, the purchase seemed straightforward. Janelle needed the funds. Robyn provided a loan, End of story. Behind the scenes, however, the reality was far more calculated and insidious. When Janelle approached Cody and Robyn for access to her own contributions from the BFPA, she faced resistance. She was told the family was cash poor, that funds were tight, that her request was unreasonable. Despite having poured her own earnings into the account, she was made to feel indebted and powerless. Eventually, the money was released, but not in a direct manner. Instead of a simple transfer from the BFPA to the RV dealership, Robyn orchestrated a complex sequence. The funds were moved into her and Cody's personal account, and only then sent to the dealership. The purpose? To create a paper trail that falsely positioned Robyn as the benefactor and Janelle as the dependent. Janelle's own hard-earned money had been turned into a tool of financial manipulation, creating an artificial debt that shifted power toward Robyn and away from Janelle. This act of financial sleight of hand is emblematic of a larger pattern of control within the family, a tactic designed to rewrite history and ensure that Janelle's contributions were recast as charity rather than investment. The text message we mentioned earlier becomes chillingly clear. Robyn was actively promoting a narrative that painted herself as generous and Janelle as incapable, all while perpetuating the illusion of scarcity to maintain control. For months, Janelle endured this distortion. Her frustration with Cody, her desire for independence, were visible to the cameras, but the full scope of the financial injustice remained hidden. The turning point came during a heated argument, when Cody allegedly invoked the manufactured debt, saying, "Robyn had to bail you out. You owe us." In that moment, Janelle realized this was no longer merely about money. It was about narrative control, reputation, and emotional leverage. Determined to reclaim both, Janelle hired a forensic accountant. This professional meticulously traced the flow of funds through the BFPA, revealing an undeniable pattern. The RV funds had originated from her own contributions, temporarily routed through Robyn and Cody's account to simulate a loan. Every number, every deposit, every withdrawal told the same story. This was not a simple misunderstanding. It was deliberate, calculated financial gaslighting. Armed with this evidence, Janelle consulted a lawyer specializing in partnership dissolutions and financial disputes. Their legal strategy was twofold. First, to secure a declaratory judgment confirming that no loan had ever existed and that Janelle owed nothing to Robyn. Second, to pursue claims of intentional infliction of emotional distress and seek punitive damages, highlighting the psychological and emotional harm caused by Robyn's manipulations. This was the culmination of years of effort, of Janelle's diligence and prudence being weaponized against her. But it was also the beginning of a reckoning. With the forensic accountant's report, the legal filings, and the documentation she had painstakingly collected, Janelle was no longer a passive participant in a manipulated narrative. She was a force reclaiming her story, her finances, and her dignity. Every detail, every transaction, every personal anecdote we've shared here paints a picture of manipulation so audacious it defies belief. It is a testament to the intricate financial dynamics of the Brown family and the lengths to which one member would go to control perception, to rewrite reality, and to maintain dominance over both money and narrative. And now, for the first time, the truth is being brought to light not in fragments or whispers, but in full, meticulously documented detail. If you've ever doubted the complexity of life behind reality TV, let this be a lesson. There are stories untold, debts fabricated, and financial gaslighting employed with the precision of a master manipulator. Janelle's story is not merely about a fifth wheel or a family accountant. It is a story of resilience, strategy, and ultimately of reclaiming power in the face of systemic betrayal. Friends, this is the reality of Coyote Pass. This is the financial war waged quietly, the battles fought behind the cameras, and the truth that has finally emerged. And it is just the beginning. As the legal proceedings unfold, as the family dynamics continue to shift, the story will grow ever more intricate, ever more revealing, and ever more shocking. Stay tuned because what you've seen here today is only a fraction of the secrets, the betrayals, and the manipulations that lie within the Brown family empire. Robyn knowingly took Janelle's hard-earned money, disguised it as her own, and then used the manufactured debt as a weapon, a tool of control, humiliation, and emotional leverage. She did this not only behind closed doors, but also by subtly spreading the narrative publicly, creating a false story in which Janelle appeared dependent, financially incapable, and indebted to Robyn. The consequences were significant. Janelle experienced provable distress, anxiety, frustration, and a tarnished reputation among her family and peers. Her lawyer argued that this act went far beyond a simple misunderstanding. It was intentional, manipulative, and actionable. Robyn had to pay for her deception. The lawsuit sent shockwaves through the Brown family, shaking the carefully constructed facade that had long concealed financial inequality and manipulation. Cody reportedly reacted with fury, seeing Janelle's legal move not as an assertion of her financial rights, but as a direct attack on Robyn and, by extension, himself. To him, this was not merely a family dispute. It was a betrayal. Meanwhile, Robyn, true to her long-practiced persona, reportedly collapsed into a state of perpetual victimhood. Sources close to the family described her reaction as a torrent of tears and confusion. "I was just trying to help. I don't understand finances. Cody handles all that. Why is she being so cruel to me? I just wanted to make sure she had a home." This defense, the helpless, financially naive wife just trying to help, had been her shield for years and was intended to be the cornerstone of her courtroom strategy. But she had gravely underestimated Janelle, the clarity of a meticulously documented financial record, and the impact of a simple, devastating flowchart that would make the imbalance and manipulation crystal clear. The courtroom battle revealed that this was far more than an RV dispute. It was the culmination of years of financial manipulation. An insidious pattern in which one woman's hard work and savings had been siphoned to fund another's lifestyle. Janelle Long, the quiet workhorse of the family, was finally ready to assert herself, armed with irrefutable proof. The trial itself was not televised, but the details that emerged paint a picture of a legal takedown that was both methodical and deeply satisfying, a moment of catharsis that Janelle had earned many times over. Observers described the courtroom as tense and silent, a stark contrast to the manufactured drama of the reality show. Here, stakes were high: dignity, truth, and justice. Janelle's legal team began with a precise and factual presentation. They laid out 5 years of her consistent contributions to the Brown family production account, including TLC, payoffs, real estate commissions, and other income, establishing her as the primary financial backbone of the family. Every deposit, every contribution was meticulously documented, forming a mountain of evidence. The pivotal moment came when forensic accountant Mr. Davies took the stand. On a large monitor, he displayed a flowchart that visually told the story of financial inequality. On the left, thick green pipelines represented Janelle's contributions. Beside them, Cody's contributions were shown. Smaller, less substantial streams depicted Christine and Mary at the far right. Almost invisible was a tiny red drip labeled Robyn Brown, representing minimal contributions. The imbalance was shocking, immediate, and undeniable. Even without an accounting background, the courtroom could see the truth. The outflows from the account were even more damning. Large arrows traced funds from the communal account to Robyn's personal life. Mortgage payments for her Flagstaff home, vehicle payments, operational funding for my sister wife's closet, and finally, the $82,000 spent on the Coyote Pass RV. The money had originated, overwhelmingly from Janelle's contributions, routed briefly through Robyn's personal account and then sent to the dealership. There was no loan agreement, no promissory note, no documentation to indicate a legitimate loan. The paper trail left no room for interpretation. Under cross-examination, Robyn's defense began to crumble. She admitted to initiating the wire transfers, but claimed it was easier that way. The lawyer pressed. Was it really easier, or was it a deliberate attempt to create the illusion that Janelle owed her money? Robyn's composure broke. Her carefully cultivated image of helplessness shattered as tears and incoherent explanations failed to convince anyone. She was no victim. She was a manipulator caught red-handed. Then Janelle took the stand. Gone was the reserved, conflict-averse woman seen on television. She was composed, strong, and articulate. She described the humiliation of being told she had to accept her own money as a loan. "I had worked my entire adult life. I contributed everything I could to what I believed was our family's future. I knew exactly how much money I had put into that account. To be told that I had nothing, that I needed a handout from Robyn, was designed to make me feel powerless." She explained how the manufactured debt had been wielded against her in family disputes, used as a weapon to silence her and diminish her voice. Whenever she questioned spending, family direction, or her own future on Coyote Pass, the debt was invoked. "You're a debtor here. You can't argue. You owe her. You don't get a vote." But Janelle knew the truth. The money was hers, earned through decades of work, discipline, and sacrifice. The judge's ruling was decisive. He first issued a declaratory judgment. No loan existed, and Janelle owed nothing. Then he addressed the emotional abuse. Taking someone's own money and presenting it as a loan to exert control is manipulation. It is financial gaslighting. It is malicious. The court ordered Robyn to pay $50,000 in punitive damages, a penalty for deception. Not a reimbursement for financial loss, but a punishment for the malicious act and a warning to deter similar behavior. Janelle's vindication was complete. She had erased the false debt, reclaimed her dignity, and exposed the truth. Robyn's carefully curated image as the sweet, victimized wife was destroyed, replaced with the reality of a calculated manipulator. Cody reportedly reacted with anger, viewing the judgment as a personal attack. Christine, observing from afar, felt validated. The favoritism and manipulation she had long suspected were now publicly confirmed. This lawsuit explains why Janelle finally gained the clarity and courage to step away. It wasn't just about Cody, it was about a lifetime of financial betrayal, emotional manipulation, and deception. She had untangled herself from a web of lies, reclaimed her narrative, and demonstrated the quiet strength it takes to fight back against calculated abuse. From the initial purchase of the RV to the final judgment, this saga is a case study in financial abuse and resilience. Robyn attempted to make Janelle a debtor, using her own money, a cynical, manipulative scheme. Janelle's victory stands as a testament to the power of truth, documentation, and the courage to stand up against injustice, no matter how deeply it is hidden. But Robyn had seriously underestimated the woman she was dealing with. Janelle Brown, the steady, hardworking, and pragmatic force of the family, proved that truth, especially when backed by a clear paper trail's the ultimate weapon. She didn't just reclaim her money. She regained her dignity, and she made Robyn pay for attempting to take it. But the courtroom victory was far from the end. It was only the beginning of the unraveling. A $50,000 judgment may seem significant on paper, but in a family entangled in decades of shared finances, property, and convoluted ownership agreements, it was merely the first domino to fall. The real story, carefully hidden from the cameras and scrubbed from the show's narrative, was what came next: the total financial exposure of the Brown family patriarchy, triggered by Janelle's courage and determination. Immediately after the verdict, within the walls of Robyn and Cody's Flagstaff mansion, the atmosphere was far from reflective. According to insiders, Cody didn't see this as justice served. He saw it as war declared by Janelle. In his mind, it was the ultimate betrayal, a public humiliation orchestrated by a wife he had carried for years. Our sources describe him pacing the floors of the oversized home, muttering to himself, shouting to the walls, consumed by indignation. He allegedly convinced himself that Janelle was conspiring with Christine, trying to poison the family and even steal from him. Reality had inverted in his mind. He was the victim, the patriarch whose benevolent oversight had been twisted into something ugly by an ungrateful wife. Communication with Janelle was immediately cut off unless legally mandated. And tragically, he even began distancing himself from their children, viewing them as extensions of her perceived betrayal. Robyn's private reaction was even more toxic. Behind her tearful public persona, a harder, bitter side emerged. According to a former friend, she felt completely persecuted. She allegedly told Cody that Janelle had hired a slick lawyer to fabricate lies and claimed the judge was biased against plural families. The $50,000 judgment was interpreted as a punishment for her goodness, rather than the legal consequence of manipulation. She refused to pay for weeks, stonewalling the court, turning the order into what she saw as a personal affront. This refusal was Janelle's legal leverage. Her team immediately moved to enforce the judgment, requesting a full forensic accounting of all shared family assets, with particular focus on Coyote Pass. The lawsuit had opened Pandora's box. With a court order in hand, Janelle could demand disclosure of the tangled LLC and property ownership structures that Cody had long wielded as absolute control. The court-ordered accounting revealed shocking truths. The Coyote Pass property, long portrayed on television as a communal family asset, had been overwhelmingly funded by the original three wives, with Janelle as a major contributor. Robyn, who had sold no property and contributed minimally, had almost no actual equity. Her ownership had been based on verbal agreements and family principle leavened in a courtroom. When the legal team presented the financial documentation, the disparity was undeniable. The ensuing legal battle over Coyote Pass was brutal, far more intense than the RV trial. Cody and Robyn fought tooth and nail, arguing for his sweat equity and Robyn's supposed entitlement to half his share, while dismissing Janelle and Christine as subordinate members. But the numbers were merciless. Using meticulous documentation, Janelle's legal team presented every contribution, every deposit, every cent, proving that ownership had to reflect actual financial input. The judge ordered the LLC dissolved and the property subdivided, with ownership deeds reflecting true contribution. This explains the sudden confusing real estate transactions that surprised viewers. Christine wasn't just selling back her property out of goodwill, it was part of a legally mandated settlement. Janelle's ownership of her parcels wasn't a gift. It was her legal right. Cody had lost control. Robyn, forced to comply, finally paid the $50,000 judgment. But in a karmic twist, the money came from a home equity line of credit on the very mansion Janelle's funds had helped secure. Robyn was effectively borrowing against assets she had manipulated to her advantage, only to satisfy a court-ordered penalty for that manipulation. Justice, it seems, has a wicked sense of humor. But the discovery didn't stop with real estate. Credit card statements, business ledgers, and family accounts revealed years of gross financial mismanagement. Luxury shopping sprees, high-end electronics, designer clothes, and extravagant spending on the Flagstaff mansion were all funded by communal accounts. Money primarily contributed by Janelle and the other wives. Even my sister wife's closet, presented on the show as a thriving family business, turned out to be a heavily subsidized vanity project. Inventory, marketing, website designers traveled to trade shows, and legal fees were all covered by the BFPA. The business was a financial failure, kept afloat by the very women whose money it was meant to represent. TLC's role in this saga cannot be ignored. Production likely suppressed the story, fearing public backlash and damage to the show's image. NDAs and editorial control ensured the conflict was invisible on camera, leaving viewers with a disjointed narrative that masked the real financial battle. Scenes of Cody's rage, Janelle's defiance, and disputes over respect and loyalty were proxies for the legal war taking place off-screen. His demands for apologies from Janelle's sons were not about manners, they were attempts to reassert dominance over the children of a woman who had just legally defeated his wife and exposed the family's financial inequities. Mary, observing silently, likely realized the fragility of her own position. Her contributions to the family pot, despite being substantial, were only secure through legal recognition. Janelle's example may have been the catalyst for Mary's slow movement toward independence. Seeing the risks of relying on Cody's goodwill alone. For Janelle, the $50,000 settlement was not a windfall, it was a reclamation. A symbolic vindication for years of manipulation and betrayal. She invested it wisely, along with the assets she secured from the LLC dissolution as the foundation for her new life. The RV, the object at the center of the original conflict, became a symbol of liberation, purchased with her own money and defended in court. It represented freedom, victory, and autonomy. Every mile she drove away from Flagstaff was a quiet celebration of her resilience and triumph. In the end, this hidden chapter explains everything. Cody's rage, Robyn's victim narrative, the fractured family dynamics, and Janelle's steadfast resolve. She didn't just leave a dysfunctional marriage. She dismantled a system of financial abuse through facts, documentation, and legal strategy. She revealed the truth about the so-called family pot and exposed a system that had funneled resources from the many to the few. Robyn tried to make Janelle a debtor with her own money, but in doing so, she ignited a firestorm that ultimately blew apart their entire financial hierarchy. Janelle's victory was not just about money. It was about justice, autonomy, and the courage to confront manipulation head-on. It is a testament to her quiet strength and a reminder, no matter how complex the deception, the numbers never lie. She exposed the truth, reclaimed her life, and forced the family to face the consequences of their own mismanagement. Every fan of the show deserves to know the story behind the RV, the lawsuit, and the quiet warrior who refused to be a pawn any longer.